The grand prize for the winner of Capcom Cup for the last couple of years has been $1 million. Big prize, big incentive, but the Capcom Cups in the Street Fighter 6 era have been missing something. Something that was really neat. From 2015 to 2019, the last year Street Fighter 4 was ran, to the second to last year of Street Fighter 5, every Capcom Cup winner had the chance to design their own skin to put in the game, with a special version just for them. And this was really cool. Nickel Dude gave us Backpack Gully, Mena gave us Mena Birdie, Gotcha-kun with Baseball Rashid, and Ivan decided to choose this. Neat. And after that, they seem to have discontinued it, which is a real shame. We missed out on possibly Menaluca Blanca, Garagura Jury, whatever JP Skin Kakeru would have made, and Fortnite Ed.
Fortnite.
But enough of lamenting on what ifs. Out of the costumes that were given out, I think one player might have gotten the short end of the stick. Kazunoko, the winner of the final Street Fighter 4 Capcom Cup, decided to make a samurai costume for Necalli. Now, I'm not saying this because of the skin looks great. I'm saying it because I think he picked the wrong character. Kazunoko didn't even stick with Necalli. That's right, this is a Necalli video, so that commenter better give me my more $1 billion. For the last 4 or so games, Street Fighters 3, 4, 5, and 6, Capcom has tried to shift the focus a bit, to have a new quote-unquote main character for the game that wasn't the karate guy Ryu from Streets. And these attempts have never worked. Didn't work with Alex, Abel, and not with Luke. But out of all the times they tried, the biggest failure is probably Necalli. By far. And there is a lot to unpack about why this character was, and still is, unpopular. But before that, this is still a video made by me, so let's talk about how he plays first. Gameplay may not be the most important factor in this discussion, but I still want to go over it. Necalli is not a bad character. At all. And there are even results and a representative to back it up. Machobo was the definitive Necalli player in Street Fighter V, and he did alright. It wasn't like he was top tier, the character, but he was decent. Necalli was meant to be a character that embodied Street Fighter V, and the mechanics that the game introduced, the V system. Which is why when he activated his V trigger, he had a big V on his body. V like 5, Street Fighter 5. Get it? And so a big part of his power budget is his V trigger. Activate and it empowers his walk speed, his dashes, and his overall damage. Normals hurt a little bit more, and now his dash goes further and he walks faster. In fact, after he activates, he has a throw loop with back throw, something that was essentially patched out. And which V trigger you choose gives him access to some new exclusive moves. But the biggest difference between the triggers is the cost. VT1 is only 2 bars, but it does run out. Makes sense, all V triggers run out. But VT2 is 3 bars and is permanent. You activate, you're empowered for the rest of the round. But permanent doesn't always mean better. When you're empowered, you do lose access to your defensive options. No V reversal and no V shift. Something more to consider in character select. Made for 5, V trigger character. As for the rest of his character, he basically has every tool. His V skills give him projectiles, non-traditional ones. V skill 1 is like JP stalagmites, so doesn't stop forward movement, but it means travel time isn't a factor. V skill 2 is a slow-moving projectile, which can give him plus frames. Do this on the beach stage so that they can't see it. He has a Dragon Punch anti-air. No anti-air invulnerability. He has a Charge Rush Punch, unsafe on block. A dive kick, and he even has a command grab. A command grab that loops too. It's what gave us this clip.
In the corner from Phenom at just the right time. Here we go, command throw. Another command throw.
Oh boy, I feel like this is something
Another
Phenom loves to
throw.
do. The 4th one, you never know.
Yes, there it is, the 4th one. He's done it.
EX command grab lets him get a follow-up. But his most important special move is his stomp. Neat as a string ender when it connects, and if he has V-trigger popped, he gets plus frames off of heavy stomp, as opposed to it just being 0. But more importantly, if he EX stomps, he gets plus frames, puts him in a very good position, basically forces out a V reversal every single time. And with everything here, he does good damage. Medium stomp giving him another normal to follow up with helps. Necalli is a neutral-based footsies character.
Footsies!
Despite all of these options, none of these are good enough to really carry his playstyle. So he relies on his buttons, his V-Skill 1, and once he activates, his walk speed. Stand heavy kick is great. Big button, crush counters can activate off of it. Stand Heavy Punch can go into Heavy Stomp, so it's very rewarding if it connects. Both medium punches are good, and he has a cancelable crouching medium kick. 14 frame hit confirm window, so not the best, but not impossible probably. You play around with these tools or spend an EX Stomp, then you have your command grab for further mix. And having Trigger Pop just helps with all of that. Better neutral with better walk speed and reward, and better offense because now he has a throw loop. He's a fine character. Granted, his neutral tools aren't the best for that being his preferred playstyle, but it's enough to get things done. But he's not the best at what he wants to do, and he's just not flashy, even with the triggers and the loop and command grab. I don't think the way he plays brings him down, but it also doesn't really uplift him. As the poster child for V-Trigger, there are many other triggers that are much more explosive. There are plenty of reasons this character isn't popular, and I don't think his gameplay helps. So, why did he flop? First off, let's get something straight here. Necalli as a character, not a conglomeration of moves and hitboxes and numbers, a character, was essentially set up to fail. Look at the cover of Street Fighter V. Notice who is on the cover. It's not Necalli. Was this the correct decision for the marketing department? 100%. But it's doing the character of Necalli no favors. If you want someone to be a big protagonist, or in this case antagonist, you need to give them some room to really show off. The longer an audience spends with a character, the better they understand them, and hopefully the more they stick to them. Necalli had no screen time. In the main story, he wasn't even the primary antagonist. That was still Bison, and he only showed up a few times. Heck, even Rashid had more action, and he was essentially a MacGuffin. If you want this character to be popular, it helps to actually show them off. Granted, you don't need to. Boba had like 6 minutes of screen time and everyone loved him. I'm more of a Django guy myself. It also doesn't help that this character has no prior connections to anyone, no implicit reason for an audience to care about him, stands on his own. But that also doesn't mean failure. The most popular characters from 4 and 5 were Juri and Rashid. Even with the latter in the game mostly due to certain mergers and acquisitions, helps that he was a good character, funny, and voiced by Whis. And it doesn't take a genius to realize why people like Juri. So, even in the situation that he's in, en route to take the spotlight from either Ryu or Bison if we're being more conservative, what is his actual character? Even with all these limitations, character can still thrive. So what about him? What's his character? Necalli has no character. And this is within the context of, this is a fighting game character in a fighting game story. I'm not comparing him to someone like Neiman or Guy from Lawyer Show.
Say that again?
I'm viewing him in more of a hype and aura moments type of character. How does he compare to Jiren, my favorite from that franchise, instead of Howard, my favorite from this franchise?
Jimmy! Jimmy! That's enough! You need to step away.
And I was just reminded that players do care about fighting game story. I'm not happy with how this point was proven, but what are you gonna do? Street Fighter II released as the World Warrior. Characters from all over the world, each region being represented, and that's been a key part of character design going forward. Major regions like Japan, United States, China, Russia, Spain, Space, England, and New York. Overwatch does the same thing, even with space characters. Funnily enough, we still don't got an Australian rep or someone from Canada, unless you count Abigail. Necalli is Aztec, which is cool. A quote-unquote emissary of the gods, who awakens to consume the souls of strong warriors. But because of that, he's a beast. Not very coherent, doesn't have much dialogue to give to really flesh him out. Here is everything he says in the story mode. Devour. The soul wanders, I must devour. Devour. Nah. Oorah. Consume your soul, oorah. I am the jaws of death. The souls of warriors must return to me. Gitepi? That's it. There's not a lot you can get from this. But that's still fine. Cool design, doesn't say much. Broly from Dragon Ball mostly screams, and he was popular enough to get canonized with a movie. You don't need to be erudite to be popular. But what made Broly work? I don't usually use this unironically, but his aura, his presence, and he got that because he merely rocked all the protagonists. He proved to be a threat, and people find that cool. And here's where Necalli takes the knockout punch. Let's go through all of his story appearances. Shows up, kinda beats Ryu, loses to Dalsim. Shows up, loses to Bison, final appearance, shows up, and loses to Ryu again. See the problem here? If a villain just loses all the time, they aren't threatening. They just end up being a bit of a clown. And if all your very limited appearances are you losing, and you already don't have much screen time, and you don't have real dialogue, all anyone remembers from this character is him getting his teeth knocked in. Necalli is just a clown. So why did Necalli fail? Let's recap. He had no character, no aura, no connections, no screen time, and no place in the plot. All you have is a character that looks pretty cool and plays alright, but no substance behind it, even considering the franchise he's representing. And I doubt we'll see him return. He did turn into black goo after Ryu beat him in the salty runback. And I also don't think he'll have a successor return either. Alex has returned in Street Fighter V and 6, Abel has had a spiritual successor in the form of Manon, and people don't hate Luke as much as they do on launch anymore. And even with the way that they rolled out Street Fighter 6, with Luke on the cover, the first character you see, and doing everything they can to push him, even putting him in Street Fighter V in, let's say, overtuned state, this is still the Ryu game. Granted, Luke is definitely in a better spot culturally than Necalli. All of them are. But like the title said, Necalli never stood a chance. Street Fighter has always been great at character design. Debatable. Depends on how much goodwill you give to the people who made the World Warrior characters. But I do think that they are able to still make successful characters. Jerry, Rashid, and for 6, I think I'm willing to throw in Aki. I don't doubt that expanding the cast will result in new iconic characters. But we have to realize that pop culture is in a different climate than it was compared to 1991 when the original World Warrior released. There is a lot more competition, both within the genre and outside the genre, for a so-called gaming icon. Haven't said that unironically in a while either. So what I'm saying is, Capcom can keep on trying, but I doubt that they'll ever be able to replace this goofy karate man.